Hey guys, Tyler from Meeple Mountain here, bringing you another board game review. Today we're going to be looking at a game from our friends at Bonjour Games. We're going to be looking at RONE Invasion. Now, in this rather large box is a deck builder and dice crafting game for 2 players. It can be played competitively against each other or cooperatively against an AI invasion deck. This is a really cool crafting deck building game, and I'm excited to show it to you today. So, without further ado, let's get to the table and learn how to play RONE Invasion. Welcome to the world of RONE Invasion, a deck building and dice crafting game that places you in the role of a specific leader or commander of your troops. There are several to choose from. You can play against a fellow commander for control of the remaining kind of apocalyptic setting of Earth after it has been invaded by the invasion, a group of AI and alien entities that are set on your destruction. You can also play cooperatively together with your fellow humans against the invasion yourself in kind of a campaign or almost cooperative setting. These 2 unique game modes give you a lot of content and a lot of bang for your buck with RONE Invasion. But today, I'm going to just kind of drill down and talk about the competitive play between players and really what to expect in regardless what mode you play, how the game works, how it functions, and what you do. Because this is a fun hybridized game where you're going to be doing deck building. You start with a starting deck. You're going to have kind of armor and health values. You're going to be working to build that deck and simultaneously craft your dice. These dice kind of function a little bit like the dice in Dice Forge or other similar games, where these are actually how you're going to claim your various resources. There are multiple colored resources as well as gray neutral resources, and you're going to use those to buy your new cards, or train cards as they call it in this game. You'll also be using those resources to store and gain special abilities and powers along the way. All of that kind of builds together, and of course you have to synergize these 2 elements. You don't want to overbuild your dice and underlevel your deck, and vice versa, so that you can have the most powerful deck of cards possible. So with that all kind of said, let's really drill down and talk about the elements of RONE Invasion and how they work on a various turn in the game and what you can expect to find when you open this box. Here we have your setup at the start of a competitive game. Now, every player is going to take on the role of a special leader. There is a deck of those cards that you would select. All of these leaders have different abilities that are going to be kind of activated abilities. Activated abilities are kind of typical. If you've ever played a deck builder, Magic the Gathering, whatever it is, you tap that card sideways and you'll need to refresh that on a future turn in order to be able to use that ability again. All of them are different, and I'll kind of leave those for you to discover, but effectively they're going to gain you different abilities or options. In this case, this particular unit would gain you reroll tokens, where you can actually modify your dice rolls for your resource dice here. You also have a technology card. There is a large deck of technology cards that you may want to acquire as well. These are again also passives and powerful effects for your base. This one allows you to deal a range damage. Damage comes in really 2, but technically 3 forms. There's melee damage that damages your armor, then your health, range damage that damages directly your health, and armor break, which does a lot of damage to your armor. You'll notice you have 2 values here. You start with 16 armor and 14 health. We use these little extra screws that go into the dice as kind of the uniform marker of all things in the game. That's what the rules tell us to do. So that's kind of what we're doing here. But if you ever get down to 0 health, your opponent does a survival check and wins the game. A survival check is a very small check where they basically will compare their garbage dump to their technology cards and see if they lose any health. If both of you would die at that moment, it becomes a tie. We'll kind of talk about that check when we refresh our deck, because that is part of the game that encourages you, actually, interestingly enough, not to overburn your deck. RONE Invasion uses a very interesting kind of drawing option in your turn, and so we'll talk about that in detail in just a second, but it is an interesting way that your turn can go. So all that to say, we've got some cards set up here from the deck. When you start the game, you're going to pick some of these cards and recruit them. They have some pretty standard value things. The cost to get them is in the top left. That is the resources that you need to have available that turn. There's some items in the bottom. That is their training resource. So when you train a card, you buy it. It kind of comes up here, but it's not in your deck yet. You need to collect and get screws to put them on the card to train them up. Once they're trained, they come into your discard pile and then will filter into your deck. So it's kind of a 2-stage purchase a card, train it into your deck process. So let's go ahead and talk about your turn and kind of how the game flow works in a turn of RONE Invasion. At the start of the game, you're going to have your starter deck. It's going to have your basic cards. You can tell because they don't have training costs on the left, and they have this nice little green symbol here on the side as well. These little guys, you'd shuffle them up, and this would start as your base deck. At your turn, you may draw as many cards as you want, one at a time. Yes, I know that's weird. I reread it myself. You actually can draw as many cards as you would like to do. Then you'll go ahead and you'll roll your dice. You would get those set up with whatever resources you have, and this is kind of like Clank, temporary resource, like blue energy and Clank, right? So this is temporary resources. So I have, 2, 4, 6, 8 gray, and I have 4 colored resources here that I can use. Then you kind of get to the main meat of your turn. You can use a die to collect the resources on it. So I could say I'm going to collect these resources. They're temporary. I can spend them. I could spend them on cards. I could spend them to store on various matching colors. Blanks can be any color. This black I could put here to store as well. And for any of those things, of course, I'm going to use screws to demarcate where I would be putting those resources. If I'm storing them for later, if I'm using them on a card, whatever that would be, I'm going to place those various resources out around the board. I can take 2 full dice, get rid of them, and use them for any other one resource I need. Not very efficient, but something you can do. You can play a card. So from my hand, I can actually play a card. If I had this card and I had the resources, so in this case I had a red resource, I could spend that resource to play this card. This card would go into the bottom area, my play area, and it would be usable at the end of my turn. This would of course be cumulative damage. So here I see I'm doing a ranged damage, which would be a damage to the opponent's health directly through their armor. I can also use a card's activated ability. For instance, we have cards over here that have what are called activated or tap abilities. So we could do all that. Finally, we can use stored resources. So if I ever have fully filled a section up with the type of resource that needs to be stored, for instance, I have 2 black here. Say I did this fully up, I would activate this. These would go away. I would do the ability, which lets me deal a melee damage, which of course is armor damage, then health damage if they don't have any armor, and discard the top card of any opponent's deck. I would do that, and I gain a 1 cost reduction in black resources of the next card that I play that needs a black resource. So that's another way that you can make things cheaper for you to be able to kind of do some fun combos. You can do all of those actions in any way, in any order that you want, as long as you have the resources to pay for the card. Once that's done, again, you're going to want to store any remaining resources that you're not using. Make sure that everything is kind of locked in. You're not losing resource values. And then you're going to deal damage. So for all these played cards that are out here, they kind of combo and sum together. And you're going to deal all that damage to your opponent's armor and then their health. Again, trying to get them to 0 health. After that, you're going to use any spare parts that you'll have. Now, there is a spare parts section. Certain cards will give you spare parts. They are going to be little symbols like this on the cards, and you can sum those up and use them to do different actions based on your choice and how many parts you have collected on that particular turn. Finally, you're going to get all of your cards from your played zone, so anything you played, just typical deck builder style. You're going to take those all. They're going to go into your discard where you'll get them into your deck again later. And finally, if you have any cards that have the number of screws placed on them for training equal to the value shown. So if I had 5 screws on this card also joins my discard pile and is now going to filter into my deck as well. Now you won't get more trading cards here until you buy more, but that is the way that you kind of get a card from the main store into your training area. It's called recruiting. You'll look at 3, pick one, put it up here, as long as you can pay the cost, and then you will get this guy to come down into your discard pile, and that will then filter into your deck fully. And that concludes one turn in competitive mode. Again, lots of pieces that are moving parts, lots of things going on there, but at the core of the game, you're going to be recruiting cards from the deck into your training area. You're going to be training them with screws, getting them trained up and into your discard pile, and then from there they're going to be working their way into your deck, all in an effort to reduce your opponent's health to 0. Now let's talk about one interesting thing that I think is really fun and interestingly done in RONE Invasion, which is your deck. When your deck runs out, e.g. it is in your discard pile or your garbage dump, and we'll kind of talk about the garbage dump here as well in just a second, you will need to reshuffle your deck. And when you do, you're going to do a few things. things. First, for each technology card, which are these guys over here, in your base, this is kind of your passives area or your kind of activated abilities for your leader and your tech cards, you are going to kind of do that. You're going to compare and take the top card of the garbage deck and put it into the top of your discard pile. Then you're going to lose a health for each card remaining in your garbage dump. So what this means, there are ways that you're going to get cards in your garbage dump. The predominant way that you do that is by when you draw cards at the start of your turn, you can actually discard cards to gain the resources shown on top of that card. That's another way to boost the amount of currency that you have in the game, but it comes at a cost when you reset your deck. So you could burn through your deck in a turn if you wanted to, but you're going to take a lot of damage doing so, because for every technology card that you have over here, you can kind of move one back over to your discard. But say I had 5 cards, I have 1 technology card because it's the leader, I would take 4 health damage for cards in my garbage dump before they come back into my discard pile. So you kind of want to play that very cautiously and carefully, and only do that when you really need a certain resource to push your turn forward. For the most part, you're not going to want cards in your garbage dump because they will lose you health. Then, if you're in competitive mode, any opponent chooses any player and destroys one of their technology tokens and refreshes all the cards in their base. So that's the way that you can refresh the cards that you've used in your base, is when someone else refreshes their deck. And also you're going to lose technology tokens. Technology tokens are these fun little guys here and can be used for various effects, specifically getting technology cards throughout the game. So that's also sad to get one of those removed. And then of course you'll shuffle everything back together from your discard pile in the garbage dump, put it all back into your deck, and be ready to go again. But as you can see, this is an interesting deck builder in the sense that obviously a big core element of a lot of deck builders are cards that allow you to draw more cards, right? Giving you more options of play. RONE Invasion kind of said, we're not doing that. You can draw as many cards as you want, basically. On every turn, you could draw your whole deck if you want to. But the danger of that is, of course, you're not going to have the resources to pay and activate every card that's in your deck, so a lot of them are going to end up going to your garbage dump or just be wasted. And if they go to your garbage dump, they are going to damage your health. So there is a very interesting risk-reward mechanic baked into RONE Invasion's formula, where you are going to choose the speed at which you run through your deck, but also the speed at which you drain your own health doing so. There are loads of cards in RONE Invasion, all kind of using this really interesting kind of grungy art style that you see here, and they range from costing you nothing to play, like this guy here, but a pretty high training cost, and cards, of course, in your base deck that can cost several resources to spend, and they range kind of in between. Some will have printed costs of certain resource types, some will have question marks, which means any resource will work, making them much more effective to play and get into your deck. Some have combat values, again, as we see shown here. Some, of course, have none at all and just do an activated ability. There are all types and so many strategies and options that can be determined. But of course, these cards can't be played without the corresponding resources on your dice coming up and being available on that given turn. So of course, the other aspect of this game is the dice crafting. Now again, you start with kind of these base level dice that's going to have one side that's just blank grays, and then every other side showing one of the 5 colors that are used in the game, which is yellow, red, black, green, and blue. But through the course of the game, even in your base deck, you are going to be able to gain additional screws and options that can go into your dice. Now, when you gain screws, as shown here, like on Alpha Squad, those are going to be particular resources that you can add and allocate to your training cards to get them up to their threshold. So that is a way that you'll be able to train up your deck and increase that value. Now, when you get to a point where you can actually increase your dice and are able to actually swap out screws on your dice, they have these fun little Phillips head screwdrivers, and you will actually come in here and you will remove one of the little screws. You could remove any, but I would say a gray. And you can come in here and actually screw in a new piece. So now I've removed a gray and I've added in another red resource, making your dice pool better. So that's definitely a part of what you'll want to do, is find a balance and a build between the colors that you want and need in your deck. It's kind of fun really to try and be like, do I want to just try and run a red deck and everything kind of have a lot of red focus on it? Do you just get the best cards and want to try and maintain a balanced dice pool? Building up your resource pool and figuring out how to best utilize it is a really fun element in RONE. We're not going to get super in in the weeds on the invasion model, but I did want to just showcase this nice big board that we have here, which is where you will be working against an alien force called the invasion. And you're going to be working in these various zones together with your teammate, trying to basically work as the human resistance to push back the alien invaders. You'll also utilize protocols that will come into effect with these tokens here. I know I mentioned technology tokens before. These are actually protocol tokens here that you can use in the invasion game, and you can use those technology tokens to get new effects and options available for you to kind of combat the enemy here, who will put in new protocols into play and do new shenanigans. There's a whole unique deck of cards of various enemy types who will come up, again, with different resources and abilities, health, all kinds of different effects that you're going to be working to stop and defeat in these various zones. So again, you have in the game of RONE Invasion very much a competitive deck builder mode that you would kind of expect to see in like Shards of Infinity, Ascension, common deck builder competitive games like that. And you have a fully fleshed out, really built out competitive cooperative mode as well, where you're going to work together against an AI. So no matter your play style or play preference, there is something for you in the box of RONE Invasion. And that, in a nutshell, is everything that you need to know to jump in and have a really good time with RONE Invasion. But what did I think about it? Well, I'm glad you asked. I was really excited when I heard about this deck builder dice crafting game. I love Dice Forge and games that allow you to kind of modify the resources you gain from your dice. And I also, of course, love deck builders. So I was really excited to see how this company would merge these two together. And I'm really pleased to say that Bonjour Games has created a really interesting combo and idea here. The idea of using your resources and modifying your resource pool to match or play into the deck and the cards that you're getting in training is really interesting. And the fact that in here we have a fully competitive mode as well as a very cooperative mode is a really interesting wide appeal attempt to make RONE Invasion a game for any gamer group and any player. And I think all those things are really solid. I think this is an innovative, creative way to do a deck builder. I really think that the way that the cards in the deck work is really interesting. You have cards moving from your pool. You're getting some options of what you buy from the store. Those go into your training area, then those go into your deck. And I love the punishing element of like running through your deck too much, costing you health, as well as kind of giving you that option to burn cards for resources. There's a lot of fun choices and things that make this game stand out from a deck building perspective. Now, the dice drafting, the dice building element, I should say, of this game is a little less interesting. First off, you have to put all those screws in the dice the first time when you open the game, and that was time-consuming and silly. It had to be done. It just was not my favorite 45 minutes of my time where I'm screwing all these little screws into these dice. Taking them apart, adding them in, super easy. The little screwdrivers that are given, super easy to use. It is just not as direct an element as the deck building is, and while it works, I didn't find it as engaging and appealing as I hoped it would be. The deck building was like a 9 out of 10, really, really cool, really interesting things. The dice drafting just fell a little short of that for me, like maybe a 6 or a 7. So it was still good. It just didn't stand out in the way that I'd hoped. Now, I kind of showcased on here the competitive mode, and I think that is really fun and interesting and stands out. The cooperative mode, I'll let you guys kind of get into and discover on your own. It didn't, connect for me. Like when I'm thinking of a cooperative game, this isn't probably one that I would encourage the gaming group to get to. I would say let's stick with the ones we like, right? Like Spirit Island, Dark Tower, some of the other really interesting, engaging co-op zombie side, whatever it may be. The cooperative was not as interesting for me as the competitive was, but I do think there are some really interesting elements that stand out. I feel like RONE was made for competitive mode and then cooperative was added. That's probably not the case. That's just my personal opinion, personal experience with the game. Now, some thoughts here. The rulebook, it is very robust and kind of runs through everything that you'll need to know. Now, the organization of the rulebook threw me off a little bit the first time I was reading through it because it kind of talks to you about basic components, then competitive, then cooperative, and the merger between what's for competitive and what's the base was a little confusing. Like, it took me a minute to really understand how training works with the screws, getting the ratios up for your troops and moving forward. So that was a little jarring, but the rulebook is very robust and walks you through all the elements and steps that you need. All the info is in there. The last thing is really just more of a Tyler thought than it is a real critique. The box is incredibly huge for what's in the box. The reason is because of, as you saw in the video earlier, the co-op board where you're fighting against the invasion is as big as this box is, which is a very nice piece of, cardboard of stock that's there, double layered, very nice piece. But it is as big as this box is. But everything else is much, much smaller. And I think, honestly, I would have preferred to see that board be foldable or be two even pieces that come together. I think a folding board would have been great. This could be much smaller. So whether the intention is that you'd buy multiple sets and keep them in here to play team modes, or there's a lot more expansion content potentially coming out for this and they're planning for that, maybe that's the case. But this box is very large for the content that's in it, which is, it's not bad. It's just always when I think about my shelving, we all have limited storage space. So I'm always appreciating companies that are as efficient with their boxing as possible, because we all have a lot of games we want to store on our shelves and we all have limited space. This guy is quite large, and I was just like, why is it so large? Why is it so big? And that was really an interesting thing to go through. But again, there may be a strategy there, but just a weird little standout thing for me. All that to say, this is a really innovative deck builder. It has some elements that I think at least make it stand out on its own. Being able to determine your own draw limit and effectively removing, like, draw more cards from your deck builder is a really interesting choice, and I enjoy it. Comparatively, Eschaton behind me here, everything about it pushes you to get the draw more cards in your deck. And so having something that didn't really mess with drawing cards at all was really refreshing. So I think there's some really interesting and novel concepts packed into this. It kind of has that Shards of Infinity Ascension feel where you're trying to actively harm your opponent. So there's the offense-defense mind there. But there's a lot of fun stuff here with how you store and use your resources and how you use those to get the best cards that you can and train them as fast as you can. Goodness, snuck up on me. But all that to say, there's some really good content in here, and I'm really pleased that I was able to review this. I think that this has a lot of fun, and this is a two-player game for me that I will bring to the table for competitive mode frequently, because I think there's a lot of really fun in here. Now, again, there's a fully awesome cooperative mode in here as well. It just didn't hit for me. I don't think it's a game that I would recommend on that sense, but the competitive mode really shines. So if you're looking for a competitive two-player kind of head-to-head deck building game with some fresh ideas, some new takes on things, and some really cool ideas with dice building that maybe just aren't as fully realized as I would hope, I would encourage you to check out RONE Invasion. It's, again, at a price point that is not going to break the bank, and it's a really enjoyable experience to add to that two-player repertoire of games in your collection. So I hope that this video was helpful for you. I hope it gave you a good idea of what to expect when you're looking at RONE Invasion, how the game works, what you can expect to find when you open the box up. If you like this, drop us a like, drop us a follow, and let us know in the comments what video, what board game you'd like to see reviewed next, because we're always looking to review new content. We've got some really exciting new content coming up. We're going to be doing some furniture reviews, which is really cool, so that's a fun thing for us, so look for that here in the future as well. And we'll also be having some new stuff coming from our partners here at Ivy Studios as well. So continue to come to Meeple Mountain for all your board game related needs, and as always, happy gaming.
Thanks for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out these links to find some other games you might want to bring to the table. This is Tyler Williams, signing off.